Allow me to share basic groupings of characters. There are two components of characters. Whenever we're talking about characters, then we tend to talk about moral characters. Moral characters will include such as honesty, empathy, respect, justice, humility, honor. Those are moral components of characters. The second component is, in Bahasa Indonesia, I use the term karakter kinerja. But how do we translate this into Bahasa Inggris? Performance characters, it's not really there. Because performance, so my apology to our friends, but kinerja means work performance. So what are the components of this? Perhaps if I outline the components, you know what I mean by these issues. We're number one, for example, persistence, imaginations, initiative, diligence, adaptability, confidence. Those are performance type of characters. What we need to build is both. We don't want someone who is honest but not creative. On the other hand, we don't want someone who is hardworking but culas. Apa culas itu? How do you say culas? There are so many. We need to include more bahasa Indonesia into Inggris, Pak. Because culas is so difficult to find. Kanin, ya. So, kita tidak ingin malas tapi jujur, okay? Atau jujur tapi culas. What we want is a combination of that. So, I had an opportunity to serve as Minister of Education for the past 2 years. And it was an opportunity for us to make integrity back into equations. We had national exams, which is so massive of cheating. It is more of a national cheating than national exam. True, and we had the numbers, and we thought it was a national disaster whenever we are going to have exams. So what we did is we come up with a measures, what we call integrity index. We measure integrity in the schools by measuring percentage of students cheating during exams. Measuring integrity is difficult, but measuring cheating is a lot easier. So the way we did it is, this is a multiple choice exams. We know the answer every classroom, and we know who sits where. Can you imagine? We come up with the result, and 70% of students from that particular schools have an identical answers. Identical answers meaning benar di nomor yang sama, salah di nomor yang sama, 70%. Same mistake, same correct answers on the 70% of the students. So what happened if 70% students are cheating? The integrity score is 30. So 1 minus those who were found cheating, that's integrity score. And you know what happened when we produced the result? Everyone were shocked. We published it. We make it public, and we distribute it to local leadership. Everyone were shocked to see that they're scoring high but low integrity. They never realize how low their integrity is until the number is out there. Everyone is feeling like only my school cheating. Of course, everyone think that way. But the entire district. So what happened is, in 2015, we initiated that process. Only around 22% of schools were doing with high integrity. only 22%. But this year, the second year, it doubled into 45% of schools were doing it in the right way. Why? Because they realize what is measured by government is no longer simply academic achievement. However, the government is also measuring the integrity of the exams. Behavior change immediately. Because they suddenly realize what people think of our success is not only the scores in their academic achievement, but in the process of doing so. And I talked to Pak Presiden. Pak Presiden, can we invite them to meet you? Sure. So we invited the top 500 schools who were honest. Not who have high academic achievement, but who have high integrity scores. And we invite them and send a message to everyone. Suddenly, integrity become the keyword in our school systems. We want to be a schools with high integrity. And we bring... So now if you go to schools, you will see a big banner. If a school have a big banner says this school, sekolah ini adalah sekolah berintegritas, and there is my signatures there. You will see this school have a more than 80% of integrity index. But if you come to a school and you see no banner, then you know this is a place home of cheating. Immediately, we didn't declare it, but you can differentiate it. You come to an SMP and SMA, you look at the entrance hall, and if you see that banner, immediately you see this is a school with integrity. Now, parents will decide. And that's the idea. That's the idea. Parents decide, where do you want to send your kids? Do you want to send your kids to good schools with low integrity? Or do you want to send your kids to schools with high integrity? The issue is bringing them back. So number one, make integrity the keyword of everyone. Number two, what's key in his aspect is to make sure that character buildings is not simply pembentukan, it's not shaping, but allow characters to grow. Through what? Through habituations. And I think that's where it is so critical. We often talk about the importance of menumbuhkan karakter, growing good characters, growing integrity, allowing it to grow. But how? Characters to be developed, it requires stages. Stage number one is to be trained. Stage number two, to be made it consistent. Make it into consistent. It becomes habit. Once it becomes habit, it becomes culture. It becomes culture, then it is a characters. So to come into the stage of characters, you have to go through habituations, pembiasaan. And this is often forgotten. And we often think, let's educate by giving school classes of integrity, classes of moral values. Yes, we may comprehend, but we don't actually practice and make it into habits. And therefore, Ibu Bapak, this is one of the challenges. Educating characters at the university level is one of the most difficult tasks. Because characters is often being educated at the early childhood. That's the stage that we are educating. As soon as you're in the university, it requires a different approach, especially when our university system is not designed with the design of 24 hours learning environment, meaning you don't stay in a dormitory in which continuously there is a serious interventions of creating a certain behavior and habits. However, example does matter. And in the university level, especially at the more mature students, setting a good examples, mentorship is key. And therefore, when we're talking about creativity, integrity, and leadership, one of the way to do that is identifying leaders that have these components and create a mentorship program that allow students to interact closely with those individuals. Because that interactions, that's the idea of education. Education is not about school. Education is about interaction between human beings. And if you allow a setting of interactions between leaders with accumulated knowledge, experience, with young individuals, they will inspire. They will then learn those lessons. One of the legendary story about our nations is there is someone who is called the Guru Bangsa. His name is Cokro Aminoto. What's interesting about Cokro Aminoto is this. So I mentioned about more mature students. We're not talking about early childhood, more mature students. Cokro Aminoto is someone who is learned, charismatic, strong sense of leadership. What's interesting, anyone who worked closely with him, inspired by him, taking so much lessons from him. Even individuals who are interacting in a short period of time. Sukarno, we know Sukarno stays with him. Leadership of PKI, leadership of Darul Islam, all of that. But also there is an interesting stories. Muhammad Natsir, the leaders of Partai Masumi then, he was a high school student. He took a train from Bandung to Gambir. In Jatinegara, everyone in that particular wagon get out of the train. Only a few individuals, him, and there is one senior guy who is Cokro Aminoto. So Natsir, young Natsir, come to Cokro Aminoto and greet him. Good morning or good afternoon. I am Natsir. Are you Cokro Aminoto? Yes, I am. So that chat between Jatinegara to Gambir, say 20-30 minutes. And Natsir said, get out from that place. I am a different Natsir. Since then, I wanted to learn. I wanted to know many languages. I wanted to master so many things. Why? I'm so inspired because of that short conversation. Today, it is the responsibility of so many leaders to be called and share to our young people. Inspire them, allow them to learn from you. Because this is not simply a place in which you gather a few individuals, train them to be leaders. I'm worried whenever we're talking about leadership training because people were forgetting leadership requires followership. And it the combinations of that too. And therefore, individuals with this creativity, with that leadership, and with that integrity, that's key to be gathered and allow young people to learn from them. The last part is on the creativity aspect. Today we live in the world that we need to have ways of looking at things in a different approach. Indonesians were generally creative, but often not in a productive way. So your creativity doesn't produce added value that give you more economic benefit. Look at memes. If you look at the social media, there's so much creativity there. But it also tells you so many people have so many leisure times that they can make all these memes. Because if you're busy, you're not able to do that. I mean, you really have to have plenty of time to actually create all of this. Creativity is there. But what's needed is creativity that brings added values. And I think now we are at times where people judge each other or people value each other, not simply because of the productivity that can contribute to the society, but the creative idea that can contribute to the society. And I think the way to do that is by allowing these gadgets, this technology, this digital media to be platform of sharing ideas. Now, today, it's very difficult to just contemplate and come up with creative idea. Creativity comes through interactions, not through meditation. You cannot meditate and come up with creative idea. You have to interact. And I think now the way to do that is by allowing our students, allowing our youth to interact with more and more. The more exposure you have, the more inspirations that produce creativity even more. So those who are living in an isolation, that's very hard to come up with creative idea. But those who are interacting with so many, they will be able to come up. So I would say with all, number one, allow exposure to your students, to our youth, with so many different groups that will bring in creativity. Number two, allow some kind of mentorship and bring leaders back into not so much schools, into responsibility of breeding new leaders, of inspiring new leaders. And three, on the leadership itself, allow one to exercise more responsibility and push the new generations in a responsibility that they had never experienced before. So with that approach, I do hope that we can make the change, especially to the future of Indonesia. But if I may underline one thing, as I mentioned in the beginning of this remark, it requires only 71 people to make the very foundations of the unity of these nations. It requires only around 250 people to decide that this is one nation, and 70 million others follow. Now we have 250 million more people of Indonesia. It requires few young individuals, a few leaders to actually exercise what I just outlined, and it will inspire more and more people to follow, and change will take place. It doesn't require to be a massive effort. I often call it social acupuncture.